Asim Shah, a Baylor College of Medicine psychiatrist, who will help us understand what psychosis is, how it develops, and what the warning signs are. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We'll also speak with Republican Carmen Maria Montiel, who will discuss her run for Texas' 18th Congressional District.
Plus, we'll also speak with Houston-based author and speaker Jenny Block, who will join us to discuss her latest book.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us your comments and questions by calling or texting us at 713-440-8870 or by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
All this and more right here on Hello Houston, right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Amy Held. This day 7 of a federal shutdown shows growing impacts. Tens of thousands of TSA and air traffic control employees are working without pay. NPR's Giles Snyder reports Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is warning of flight delays.
Secretary Duffy says controllers are already dealing with a persistent staffing shortage and outdated equipment. Now they're on track to miss their first paycheck.
Now what they think about as they're controlling our airspace is, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How do I make my car payment? I have a couple kids at home. How do I put food on the table?
Duffy met with controllers at Newark Liberty International Airport, saying some have begun calling in sick. The FAA says staffing issues are causing delays at airports, including Newark, Phoenix, and Denver. In California, controllers more than 100 miles away in San Diego handled air traffic at the Hollywood Burbank Airport Monday evening because there weren't enough controllers to staff the tower. Giles Snyder, NPR News.
As the shutdown enters its second week, WIC, which provides food assistance, said it could run out of money within a couple weeks. Trump is reiterating threats of mass layoffs and program cuts. The House is not in session. The Senate is, but so far, several votes on funding bills have failed to make headway. Attorney General Pam Bondi is defending herself against Democratic criticism she has overseen a weaponized Justice Department amid President Trump's use of the military on U.S. cities. Bondi is testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Despite the unprecedented degree of activism we've seen from the lower courts, we have never ignored a court order. And why would we? We have secured a historic 22 victories at the Supreme Court alone, with more to come.
A federal judge has set a Thursday hearing to rule on Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago. Another federal judge has blocked a troop deployment to Portland, Oregon. It's the second anniversary of the Hamas-led attacks on Israel and the subsequent war Israel launched against Gaza. NPR's Emily Fang has more from Israel.
In Israel, people say they have not moved on because 48 hostages remain in Gaza and the war continues, dividing Israeli society. At a commemoration event in the kibbutz near Oz, where 1/4 of its members were killed or abducted on October 7th, Daphne Albini says she is still grieving and angry. Her grandfather, the peace activist Haim Perry, died in captivity after Hamas kidnapped him. She says all this talk about taking over Hamas in Gaza and seizing control of territory, well, like my grandfather used to say, occupation kills. And now our soldiers are being killed in Gaza and our hostages are being killed. She says she wants the Israeli government to end the war through diplomacy. Emily Fang, NPR News, near Oz.
This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Some 200 Texas National Guard troops are expected to soon be on patrol in Chicago. San Antonio Democratic Congressman Joaquin Castro says Governor Abbott is, quote, abusing members of the Texas National Guard. He spoke out against their deployment to Chicago as part of the federal crackdown on anti-ICE protests.
I'm calling on Greg Abbott. I believe other colleagues from Texas will call on Greg Abbott to recall permission to Donald Trump to use the Texas National Guard for any purpose that involves going into other cities and doing what was done in Chicago a few days ago.
The Illinois Attorney General filed a lawsuit yesterday aiming to block the deployment. So far, a federal judge in Chicago has declined to issue an order immediately halting it. A section of westbound I-10, also known as the Katy Freeway, will be reduced to 2 lanes beginning later this month. News 88.7's Kyle McClinigan says the lane closures are expected to last into next year as TxDOT continues work on an over $400 million project.
TxDOT announced Monday that a stretch of I-10 from I-45 North to Houston Avenue will be limited to 2 lanes beginning Friday, October 24th. The lane closures are part of the $407 million I-10 White Oaks Bayou Elevation Project, which is designed to reduce flood risk. According to TxDOT, the White Oaks Bayou section of I-10 has been inundated by floodwaters 10 times since March 1992. TxDOT said the lanes are not expected to reopen until mid-2026. The project will also include relocating the often-struck Houston Avenue Bridge to under I-10 once the interstate is elevated. Although demolition of the current bridge is not set to begin until 2027. I'm Kyle McClinigan, News 88.7.
No injuries have been reported after a massive fire broke out at the Dow Chemical facility late yesterday in Freeport. Residents nearby reported hearing what sounded to be an explosion. Officials say that the fire was contained within the facility block and all employees were accounted for. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Good morning.
2 on a Tuesday.
2 on a Tuesday on Taco Tuesday.
That is Taco Tuesday. It's National Taco Day. How about that?
That's right. Our friends on YouTube, we're already chatting before our show started, and we just want to thank you for joining us, whether you're listening to us on 88.7 or on YouTube.
And a first-time listener, Sophia Wang.
Hi, Sophia.
She has
Welcome
high
to
expectations.
Hello Houston. Oh, well, you got the best of the three. Ernie's out.
I can't believe Ernie is missing Taco Tuesday of all days.
I know. That's his jam.
He'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah. He'll be back tomorrow. And then on Friday, I'll be out at the Bayou Arts Festival.
Bayou City Arts Festival is always fun.
Yeah.
It's been going on as long as I've been in Houston, and that's since 1989. Yeah. And it's moved to different locations, but it's always a good time. So yeah, I think you'll have a blast out there.
I think so, and I'll be popping in on the show to kind of be out in the community. And, yeah.
Well, good. Nice. Well, I'll tell you, it's going to continue to be a busy morning here. Hurricane Jerry was the latest hurricane to ever hit the Texas coast in 1989. It was October 15th, 16th. It actually hit Galveston, and 3 people drove off the seawall and died. But that's the latest. That's kind of the latest we've ever had. So once we get to October 7th, we can pretty much breathe a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
But I say that because Jerry formed as a tropical storm in the Atlantic today. It is going to stay in the Atlantic. Looks like it'll become a hurricane, but we are on the J storm. Has not been, as far as landfalling hurricanes, an active season, thank goodness. Just if you look at all that's going on with FEMA and whether we're sure about FEMA and is somebody going to be there for us and all of that, thank goodness we haven't had to deal with a hurricane strike.
And I really think that when we look at our seasons, right, our hurricane season, everybody's kind of on edge until we get to this point.
Yeah, once they feel that first little whiff of cool air, they're like, oh.
Like our pressure goes down a little bit, and then we get another one, and then,
It's like fall actually has a chance. Because we get teased in August and all that, but it never really happens until we finally get to October. And then we get there. So that's good.
Yes, so that's good. And we will keep you updated as always with our weather right here on Hello Houston.
Yeah, it's going to continue to be a nice, dry, sort of warmish week. It looks like highs around 90, 92. But evenings have really, and now that the sun is going
They're
down.
So nice.
I know. Now that the sun is going down a little earlier, about 6:45, that helps.
And last night the moon was amazing.
A harvest moon.
Beautiful.
And it was a supermoon, which means it was closest to the earth as they can get. So it was absolutely gorgeous. So a nice day and a nice week ahead. You want to get us into our top story?
Yes, but we begin with a developing story coming out of Brazoria County, and this story does contain mention of possible domestic violence and could be disturbing for some adults and children. A mother is facing capital murder charges after allegedly shooting her 4 children, killing 2 and leaving 2 others critically injured. Court documents reveal chilling details, including paranoid behavior and deeply troubling statements from the mother, 31-year-old Aninda Romilis. As investigators continue piecing together what led to this unimaginable tragedy, questions are being raised about the role of untreated mental illness, specifically psychosis. And joining us now is Dr. Asim Shah, a psychiatrist with Baylor College of Medicine, to help us understand what psychosis is, how it develops, and what warning signs families and communities should never ignore. Dr. Shah, welcome back to Hello Houston. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Shah, this case is so very tragic. And of course, we are slowly learning about this mother and her children. But some of the details that have come out, such as Brazoria County Sheriff Bo Stallman said at a news conference that the children's mother had called the police herself that morning. And I found that very interesting, and I'm curious, does that typically happen when someone is in the midst of some type of psychotic break? Would they call the police on themselves?
Yeah, it certainly can happen, because think about it, a person has a delusional thought process. A person is thinking that something bad is going to happen to either themselves or somebody near and dear to them, and they're trying to protect that. So they sometimes do that, and they will call the authorities themselves, because in their mind, either they're doing or they have done something to protect people from something even further worse to happen. This is all sometimes as a result of a delusional process, what we call psychosis. Psychosis is a combination of delusions, paranoia, and hallucinations, whether it could be auditory or visual hallucinations. So in other words, it's impaired reality testing. You're not in touch with reality.
You know, Doctor, it strikes me that a lot of the crazy shootings that we see are born out of anger. This is not born out of anger. This looks to me to be born out of fear, but a really deep-seated fear of Satan or something bad happening. How do we know the difference? Because of knowing if somebody's angry or if somebody's fearful.
Sure. Yeah, that's also a good question. So anger would be something, for example, you're driving on a highway, you overtake somebody, that somebody gets upset at you, and that somebody may start shooting at you or may shoot at you or may do something to you. That's anger. This is something, or this could be something different in a sense that you have a belief system again, just remember that we have not seen this patient. We're talking about in generics. But you're thinking of something in which a person has a belief system that you believe that there is a whole system that my kids may be possessed by devil, or if I don't do A, B, and C, devil may do something to my family, devil may destroy my family, devil may destroy me or something. And in order to protect me or my family from further destruction from devil or the negative forces, I have to protect my family or my loved ones. In order to protect that suffering, I will do something. So that's a whole belief system. Of course, a negative belief system, of course, a delusion, of course, impaired reality testing, but that's not out of anger. That's out of a negative or impaired reality testing belief system. So it's a completely different delusional belief system.
Well, I know that in some cases, like people with severe OCD, they feel like they have to wash their hands 50 times or their 50-year-old mother is going to die, or they have to do, they get sort of into this, but that doesn't go to killing someone. So where does that person cross over?
Yeah, OCD also is a belief system. You're absolutely right, but the belief system is different, and it is more could be towards cleaning, towards checking things, towards repeatedly performing acts. not towards that paranoia. Usually, it could be paranoia to the fact that, okay, if I don't wash my hands, I will be dirty, yes, but not toward that impaired reality testing of the devil and so forth. The line is different in psychosis. In psychosis, a person may be even talking to themselves, maybe even hearing voices, maybe even seeing visions, and those kind of things may happen, maybe even believing that they are possessed with spirits or special powers. OCD is not like that. But yes, there is some level of overlap in terms of some suspiciousness or some paranoia, but not completely there. But this is way more in terms of the reality testing is completely impaired here, whereas in OCD, you have certain symptoms in which you're doing the repeated things. The theme in OCD is repeated thoughts or obsessions, which is fulfilled with the compulsions, because you do those things and you fulfill that with compulsions, and that's how you relieve your anxiety. Here it is your delusional aspect, delusional thinking, which is completely out of reality, and it's a complete delusional system.
So, Dr. Shah, oftentimes when we look at maternal psychosis, because what we understand from this case, it's very specific of a mother taking her children's lives, we think of postpartum. But clearly this wasn't the case, given that the youngest child was a 3-year-old and there's other children all the way up to 12 years old or 13, I believe. How and what are some signs someone needs help?
Yeah. So, it still could be postpartum complicated, because postpartum starts. So anybody after delivery can have postpartum blues, which is normal. Right. If it continues more than a month, that's postpartum depression. But a lot of times these things are not treated and they continue. Also, a lot of people may have existing depression, existing bipolar, existing psychosis, which is further complicated after the delivery. So we don't know what this was, whether this was a postpartum depression or bipolar or psychosis, or this was a regular psychosis or whatever. We don't know. We have not seen the patient. Again, we don't know. Having said that, what are the warning signs and what can we do? That's more important than going into what this was. The warning sign and symptoms are that if you see somebody who's acting out of the ordinary, if you see somebody who is suspicious, if you see somebody who's paranoid about certain things, if you see somebody who's talking about devil or who's talking about things which are impaired reality testing, if you see somebody who is talking to themselves when nobody's there, if you see somebody who is mentioning things that somebody's trying to break in, and if I don't do A, B, and C, some harm is going to happen to the family or so. If you see somebody who's mental health has changed after certain things. A lot of these people are unable to sleep out of fear. All those things need to be addressed. If you also see somebody who was taking psychiatric medications but have stopped taking medications, and they have young kids at home, very, very serious, because their condition is going to get worse and they may not be able to take care of not only themselves but also their kids. All those things need to be addressed, and by addressed means they need to go back and see their psychiatrist or mental health professional, or they need to seek help by seeking somebody new or seeing somebody new. And help is available. So postpartum psychosis is 1 to 2 per 1,000. So it's rare, it's not common. But again, it can be fatal. And we don't know what happened in this scenario, but these are very severe instances.
Right. And we look at this case as one of the most severe. It doesn't get much worse than this. And my question then becomes, in order to be diagnosed with some type of major mental health diagnosis like bipolar disorder or a personality disorder or chronic depression or schizophrenia, you have to be seeing a psychiatrist on a regular basis. And that means you have to have time and transportation. And then you also have to be prescribed medication to be able to start remedying some of those situations. What do we do when we have perhaps a single mother who might not have transportation, who potentially has multiple children? And where do people in those types of situations go when they perhaps feel like everything is stacked up against them?
Yeah. So the good thing is that these days, because of COVID even more so, virtual care is available also. So people can be seen virtually. They certainly can go and have a virtual care established. So they don't have to go anybody. So go to see somebody. If you're talking about transportation or so forth, if they are stable, they can be certainly seen virtually through their home, just like we are doing virtual right now. They can do that too. Of course, if they're unstable, nobody would see them virtually, but if they're stable, they certainly can be seen virtually. So that's one thing. Transportation can be avoided and virtually can be seen. Even if you don't have insurance, there are a lot of care modules available. You can go to Harris Health, you can go to Harris Center, you can be seen and even given medications. Even if those things are not available, certain times case managements can be available. They can come and pick you up and get you, if needed, injections and all that. So a lot of things are available. I think our job is to try to get them close to the treatment. And the easiest and the best way is dial 988, which is the central number for behavioral health, just like 911, and let 988 handle the triage process. Let 988 decide where the person would get help, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a ER, whether it's a crisis intervention, or whether it's just to see an outpatient provider. But just thinking that they cannot go would not be appropriate, because virtual care is also available in this field very easily.
We're talking with Dr. Asim Shah, psychiatrist with Baylor College of Medicine, about how to spot signs of psychosis. Join us, call or text 713-440-8870. Dr. Shah, I have this question. Can we detect psychosis growing? In other words, if a year ago, I'm afraid somebody's going to break into my house, and now I'm afraid Satan's going to break into my house. I mean, where do we see that kind of change from what a lot of us might say and then someone delusional says?
Yeah, you can sort of detect it growing even from childhood, because a lot of these kids usually, if you're thinking about childhood, a lot of these kids usually are loners, aloof, don't have a lot of friends. Why? Because they don't trust a lot of people. There are trust issues even in childhood. They don't socialize a whole lot. So there are some subtle signs, not necessarily in every person, but in some of them. Remember, 1/3 of the psychiatric problems start before the age 14, and more than half start before the age 18. So bulk of them do start at early age. So you are able to find a lot of these signs, symptoms at an early age. So yes, and again, you notice something different as they grow up, meaning that not only they're trusting people, not able to trust people, they have their own thought process and own belief system in which they don't let other people come in. They have their own comfort level in which they only trust few people. Those are their people of comfort. And it's not easy to break it. Also, sometimes they get into substance use, drug and alcohol, which will complicate the situation as opposed to help the situation. That's going to make you more paranoid, more delusional. Another thing which you will notice, that not only they are paranoid, they have a delusional system, you will notice a lot of time that they will be, when they're alone, talking to themselves, as we call in our language, responding to internal stimuli. All these things are warning signs. All these things are early symptoms of developing psychosis we may notice. And again, we should get help for those symptoms.
Now, what if a family member or a friend notices this in another friend and they refuse to get help? Where do we go from there?
Yeah. So if it's a child, if it's less than 18, per law, the adult, meaning the parents, can take them involuntarily, because parents are the custodian. They can take them involuntarily. As I mentioned, over 50% will be before the age 18. So you can certainly take them to see a physician. If it's an adult, you're absolutely right. It's very challenging to convince an adult because they have rights.
Yeah.
So the challenge with adults is twofold. Of course, you cannot force them. So your challenge is that you have to convince them to go and see somebody. Sometimes you're able to convince by saying that, hey, you're unable to sleep because of this, you're feeling afraid, let's go and see somebody, which will help you with your sleep. And you're not lying, but you're telling them the true thing, that maybe once they're treated, it will help them with their sleep. And sometimes they're able to go with that aspect. Or you can say that this is causing relationship issues with your home or your family. Let's go and see somebody so that your issues at home are resolved. or it is causing issues at your work or school, let's go and see somebody so that those issues are resolved. So when you approach it in a different way, sometimes they're able to go. And sometimes it doesn't work at all. And sometimes when the situation is worse to the point that there is a danger to self or others, unfortunately, you may have to call 988 and crisis intervention team or police may have to come and take them to the nearest emergency room, which is not the best or the nicest way to approach, but you don't have a choice sometimes because safety is paramount.
If I suspect someone is having delusional issues and psychotic issues, can I call 988 and say, my friend is having problems?
Absolutely. Anybody can call. They will get the information, but based on the information received, they will act accordingly.
Dr. Shah, as a psychiatrist, obviously you play a pivotal role in prevention, and we've talked about noticing those signs. What can we learn from yet another tragedy like this? Unfortunately, this is not the first time this has happened. And, we hope that by becoming more aware of these types of situations, we can intervene. But what lessons can we learn from this?
I think when we go deep down to the lessons, the only two things which come to my mind, and perhaps that's things which will come out many months later, is compliance with the treatment. So, for example, you talked about schizophrenia, bipolar, or any of these illnesses. All these illnesses are very much treatable. Treatable meaning treatable, you have to take medications or you have to get some treatment. When people stop treating their illnesses, then they get worse. So the first goal is to get somebody to treatment and then to continue treatment. They are one to us, but they're separate to some people, meaning they feel that I'll go see a person, get diagnosis, and then I may stop the treatment. That doesn't work like that. So first thing in our world is that please continue your treatment to avoid complications, which could be like this. And they could be fatal, they could be serious, they could be very, very serious. So that's number one. Number two is reduce stigma about these things. Talk about these things. And if you know somebody, your loved one, your family, your neighbor, your friends who's suffering, please get them some help. Because saving one life, if you can save one life in your own whole entire life span, that is worth more than anything. And we can do that by talking about it, by taking people to the care needed, and by reducing stigma, and by making people compliant to their treatment. Nobody talks about stopping medications when it's for diabetes, when it is for high blood pressure, when it is for asthma. Just one minor thing, and then I'll stop. I saw a patient the other day. They asked me, when will I stop my medication? And I said that you have diabetes. Have you asked your doctor, when will you stop that medication? And they said, no. So I said, why are you asking me about your medication for psychosis? It's the same thing. Until you take your medicine, you will continue to feel better. So you need to continue to take medications. That's extremely important.
All right, we have a call, Dr. Shah, from Florence in Southwest Houston. Florence, welcome to Hello Houston. What's your question for Dr. Shah?
Well, it's not a question, but more of a comment. I had a loved one who had a psychotic episode, and I was able to take them into the admitted into a psychiatric hospital, but when they discharged them from a psychiatric hospital, they discharged them without any medication. And so that's really dangerous because even the medication says do not stop this medication abruptly. And so I was able to help my loved one get that medication, but they discharged my loved one without medication. They gave her a paper prescription. I asked them to send it to the pharmacy. They didn't. And so if this person did not have me to advocate for them, there's no way that this person would have been able to follow through to go to the pharmacy and get their prescription filled and also pay over $100 worth of copay after insurance for a 15-day supply of medication that they really needed to remain sane. And then also, when they were transferred from the regular hospital to the psychiatric hospital, this is a female, 24-year-old female, who was escorted by male constables to the psychiatric unit in the middle of the night. And my daughter had on her regular clothes, and they told her that she needed to strip and only wear the hospital gown and her undergarment. So that's very concerning. I think that it exacerbates their mental their mental state. And so it's just, we need to do more regarding mental health for everybody, because this is really scary. It was scary for me, and I consider myself to be sane.
Yeah, Florence.
Thank you, Florence.
Thank you so much
Very
for sharing
good
that
point.
with us.
Just one comment on Florence's question. We at Bentop would discharge everybody with medications, and not only medication, but also give appointments for outpatient follow-up so that they follow up. So that's a very good point, and I appreciate that.
Yes. And again, you can join the conversation, 713-440-8870. Marcos from Jersey Village is on the line. Marcos, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question for Dr. Shah?
Hi. Our issue kind of echoes what Florence is experiencing, in just that in navigating through the system is becoming evident that it's really difficult. We have a 19-year-old loved one who has a diagnosis of schizophrenia, but he's not taking his medication, and has some aggressive tendencies, and there's really nothing we can do about it. He's done certain things that are not right and illegal, and really the law just makes it very difficult for us to find him or seek out a medical warrant, and we're just hitting a lot of roadblocks, and are really just at the mercy of waiting for him to at some point get caught by the authorities, and hoping that he can get the help that he needs, because he's not really willing. And if they're not willing, then that makes it all the more difficult to get treated.
Marcus, thank you for joining us. And Dr. Shah, here we have another case of people basically saying that even though we do have things and systems, it's tough. What are your thoughts on that?
It is. Absolutely. That's for me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very tough. It's very easy from my side to mention these things, but it's very, very tough for anybody whose loved one is suffering and ends up going even to the hospital. Psychiatric hospitalization, unfortunately, is not fun. It's extremely difficult. It's extremely traumatic for the patient and the family. And the person who mentioned about the search and all of that, they're right about that. But on the flip side, if you think about it, if the hospitals don't do searches, we have had patients who will come who will have sharp objects, and they will try to hurt themselves with those sharp objects. So there's a flip side to that also. So they have to be careful, meaning the hospitals have to be careful in terms of searching. Certainly, things could be better in a better way, completely agreed. Yeah. But they have to do searches so that there are no sharp objects with the patient, because remember, a lot of these patients can be suicidal, can have suicidal tendencies. So you cannot let them have sharp objects to hurt themselves. So it's very difficult, it's very traumatic, and it's just not an easy way out of the situation.
Very hard situation. Dr. Asim Shah is a psychiatrist at Baylor College of Medicine. Dr. Shah, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston. And the story we just discussed is an ongoing investigation. You can go to houstonpublicmedia.org for continued coverage. And if you or a loved one is in need of any mental health support, you can call or text 988. This is the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, offering 24/7 confidential support for people in distress. Coming up, we will be joined by Carmen Maria Montiel, a Republican candidate for Texas's 18th Congressional District. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
With federal support gone, Houston Public Media needs a stronger foundation for the future. The Houston Public Media Resiliency Fund is our response to ensure this service remains strong, stable, and community-powered. Your gift today helps us stay on the air tomorrow and the day after that. Give now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Unlock $25,000 for local journalism, but it only happens when 200 listeners give today.
After federal funding cuts, this newsroom depends on listener support to stay strong and continue to serve Greater Houston.
Your gift today says, "This journalism matters."
You are the one who can get us to 200 donations. Go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from Houston Center for Contemporary Craft, Presenting Craft Texas 2025, a juried show featuring work by nearly 50 Texas artists in a variety of media. More at crafthouston.org.
Support comes from the 2025-2026 In-Print Brown Reading Series, featuring Adam Johnson, Pulitzer Prize winner of The Orphaned Master Son, reading from his new novel, The Wayfinder, Wednesday, October 15th. More at inprint.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
Carmen Maria Montiel came to the United States. It says on her website 1998. I think it's 1989, but we'll ask her for sure. She was a student in pursuit of liberty, opportunity, the American dream. She became a naturalized American citizen in 2002, and now she's running for U.S. Congressional seat, District 18. That is Sylvester Turner's old seat. Before entering politics, Carmen built a successful career in the medical field, journalism, entrepreneurship, real estate, after being crowned Miss Venezuela, Miss South America, and placing as second runner-up in Miss Universe 1984. Carmen used her platform to inspire young women to pursue excellence through discipline and determination. Carmen, welcome to Hello Houston. We're glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Fran and Celeste. Thanks for having me with you. And yes, you're right. I need to check that. I came to the United States as a student in 1988.
Right.
And then from that, I moved to Houston when I finished school.
Yes, yeah, East Tennessee University, is that what I read?
East Tennessee State University. And when I came in 1991 to Houston, I started working in Telemundo first as a reporter. And within 5 months, I earned the anchor chair. So,
nice.
Congratulations. And if you would like to join the conversation, if you have a question or comment for Carmen, you can give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870. Now, Carmen, why don't you just tell us what made you decide that this was the time to get into politics and run for District 18, the congressional seat?
Well, this is my third run, and you know what they say about the third, third time
true
charm.
Yeah,
and let me tell you, my inspiration is, as you know, I am a legal immigrant. I came from Venezuela as a student, and while I was here, the situation in Venezuela started to deteriorate. And then I was not able to go back. I stayed waiting for the situation to get better. And the reality is we all know what's happening at the moment. And so I stay, I made my life here. I, work in Telemundo, then develop a medical practice, have my 3 children here, born and raised them. They are some out of college and the last one in college. And then I saw how many things that were happening in the United States were so similar to the process that took Venezuela to what it is. People need to understand that we don't just wake up one day and we are under communism. We need to understand that it's a process of 50 plus years. So by seeing that, I started getting worried. And then when I realized how corrupt even the court system was, I said, you know what, I know what's happening, and I will hate myself if I do nothing and I allow for my children not to have a future, because this is it. This is the United States of America, and if we fall down, I don't know what's going to happen to the world. So it's just seen there's so many similarities, and the city of Houston is the best example. This city is, since I came here in 1991 to now, the city is practically, we have seen growth and buildings and everything, but look at our streets are destroyed. My slogan is Houston, we have a problem. We drive a SUV because of necessity, not because of a fashion. And every time it rains, it floods. And especially that district has so many problems. I have a question. So you came on a J-1 visa, student visa, to the United States back in 1988 from Venezuela. You didn't want to go back because of what was happening to Venezuela. And we all know, as you said, what has happened there. And then they're in terrible shape. So how do you square the administration, the Trump administration right now, regardless of how people from Venezuela got here, sending them back to that?
Because that's what's happening. We're sending people back to 72% of the world is under authoritarian regime. And we're sending all of our immigrants that we say are illegal, sometimes without due process, we're sending them back to those countries and to those regimes, including Venezuela. And you were lucky enough to get away from that. So if you win this position, how are you going to square that?
Well, hopefully Venezuela will be free soon.
They won't. They won't.
No, they will. Trump is taking action to free the country, and it's going to be a long process to rebuild the country. The country is completely destroyed. Now, we are a country of law. And like I always say, I came here legally. I'm a legal immigrant.
Correct.
Sadly, the last administration incentivized illegal immigration, opened the border. And that's what's happening. And I said, if we do not enforce our laws here in the United States, what are we? Venezuela again? And we're a country of law. And actually, this administration is telling the people, just self-deport yourself, and then you can make your way back in legally, which is the best way. Because my process, they have to... It was a long process. They checked me out. They make sure I was not going to be a burden to this country. And what's happening now is that everybody that comes here, it's getting all the benefits of us taxpayers. And we cannot do that to our children. We are leaving a great debt to our children. And we need to have a legal process. And that's why United States is what it is. This is a country of laws. And the day that we are not longer a country of laws, there is no difference between us and all those countries that have regimes like the one in Venezuela.
So, I think most people would agree that we absolutely have to have legal processes in order to come into this country. What type of policies would you be advocating for that are different than what are already happening right now?
The reality is this country needs people. We all know that. We don't graduate enough engineers for this country. What we need to do is make the legal process faster and easier. As myself, it took me 14 years to become a citizen, and it was a lengthy process. I have to sacrifice my journalistic career. It was expensive. So, and right now I know people that is doing legally, and it takes so long. So I think we need to have a faster, better process, and also re-implement migrant visas. Remember, migrant visas used to exist, and they were deleted. So when migrant visas were taken away, then, well, what we end up happening, we have illegal immigration. We also need to have temporary visas because we need those temporary workers. So I am for, we need to rethink and redo and make faster the legal process and re-implement certain visas that used to exist, but they no longer exist.
So let me ask you this. Would you support the National Guard coming into Houston?
Oh, yes, definitely.
But that feels very authoritarian when tanks show up with National Guard and machine guns. I mean, I see that in other countries. I saw it in Rio, and I've seen it in Mexico, and it's just different for us. I don't know that it's better or worse.
Well, no, the difference is they're coming to protect us citizens, the good citizens. They're not coming here to attack us good citizens. They're coming to protect because sadly, the blue cities, the cities that are on the Democratic ruling, they're failing us. And Houston is one of the cities with the higher crime. So if the people that is in control of these cities are not able to protect us, then the government, because that's the first thing you need to do when you are a politician is to protect your citizens. And that's what happened. If you tell they're going to send the National Guard to attack us, the good citizens, I say, of course, no. But if they're sending the National Guard to protect us, the good citizens, I say yes, because the Democratic, the blue cities are failing us. And look at the crime. Nowadays, I used to be very happy, but when my kids are here, I'm so worried every time they go out.
District 18 obviously has been making major national headlines in regards to the redistricting of the maps. Can you talk to us a little bit about what your thoughts were on that and what your position is on the redistricting of District 18?
Well, first of all, I'm against gerrymandering. I believe that gerrymandering does not serve democracy, because that's why we usually have a very tight Congress. We don't have a majority because they're basically distributed equally. So I wish that gerrymandering goes away. And then one of the things I requested, it's in this process, was to have more Latino representation, because the city of Houston and Harris County runs between 45 to 48% Latino. And in this redistricting, they didn't give us more representation. My district right now is mostly Latino. It became, after the census of 2020, 45% Latino, and that was what was happening. But the reality is, more and more Latinos are realizing they are conservative, and that's pro the redistricting, because we needed to have a better representation of conservative Latinos, which was accomplished at the border.
Currently we do have Sylvia Garcia of District 29, who is one of the only Hispanic representation for the Houston area right now in Congress. Have you had any conversations with her about, she is a Democrat, and how y'all would potentially work together to serve your districts?
Well, sadly, I know Sylvia since she was a judge. I remember being here that long. I used to interview her when she was a district judge, I believe. And I have heard she might not run. I know some Democrats that are going to run that seat. Let me tell you, the problem we have nowadays, I remember this country when I came here in 1988, when we could have a conversation, Democrats and Republicans. Sadly, Democrats have become so radicalized that it's basically impossible to have a conversation when we can, exchange opinions. It's just radicalized, is their way or their highway. And one of the things that are happening in the cities, the cities are getting destroyed and people are fleeing the cities. And we need to rescue back our cities, and also find out where billions of dollars of federal money that was allocated to this city to solve the infrastructure problem we have on the roads and the drainage, so we stop having floodings. Where is the money? We're talking about around $40 billion that is missing. I already have the bill that, as soon as I get to Congress, I will introduce to audit the city of Houston and Harris County to see where that money is, because that will bring solutions to the city of Houston.
Ms. Montiel, we have a call. This is from Roland from West Houston. Roland, what is your comment or question for Ms. Montiel?
Yes, frankly, pardon the pun, but frankly, I think I have never heard on your program anybody with more common sense. If this woman would have taken over the position of the person that she's replacing 20 years ago, this would have been a much, much, much better city. Now, having said that, the thing, I think, Frank, you mentioned, the authoritarian thing. I think what's authoritarian would be 50 shootings in Chicago, 40 shootings in Chicago and other blue cities every weekend, and 10 to 20 fatalities, and not wanting any of these government. And this woman will do something about it. She will clean out First Colony. She will go down Gulfton like they did many, many, many years ago, and have task forces, which Harris County and with Houston and Harris County is doing, to clear out people like First Colony and Aurora, Colorado, and Portland, and cities that are having and they say, "Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's fine. Okay, would you want your daughter to walk down any street in Chicago or at any time of day, let alone the night? No, I wouldn't. So I think that's what's authoritarian, not sending in some military people who are not. But I do blame Trump because the reason he's going out on the street looking for people randomly is because the people in charge of the blue states will not call ICE when they have felons in their custody and say, "ICE, we have these people in our custody. Will you please come pick them up?" No, we're not going to make that call. So ICE, as Tom Holman says, we got to go out on the street and look for them randomly. And yes,
Roland,
it's going to cause problems because we're going to pick up people and question really, really good people that do not need to be questioned, because you will not call us and tell us to come pick up your felons before you let them back out on the street.
Thank you, Roland, for joining us today on Hello Houston. And again, 713-440-8870. Everybody is welcome to the table. You know, Carmen, that's interesting. Roland obviously had a lot to say. What is your response to that?
Well, he's right. This is about common sense. And what happened is the Democrats has lost common sense. The Democrats are pro-criminals, pro-open borders, pro-giving welfare to people that do not deserve it. And in the meantime, we cannot keep spending the way we're spending, because we all know what happens when we spend more of what comes in. And we need to think about the future of our children, not only what country they're going to inherit, but what debt they're going to inherit. And instead of thinking about about all these communist agenda, socialist agenda, when they are advancing, what is called the woke, and just take care about your citizen, provide safety, stop. Here we're seeing the cities fighting against ICE. When they're taking criminals out of our country that were allowed here with an open border. When I came here illegally, I remember how much, I was scrutinized first to get my visa. Every year when I have to renew my visa, then when I pass to a working visa, then when I pass to a residency visa. In the meantime, these last 4 years, you see people just coming in and they don't check anything. And on top of that, they get all type of welfare benefits.
Carmen Maria Montiel is a Republican candidate for the Texas 18th Congressional District. Carmen, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you very much, Celeste. Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you for having me with you.
Thank you. Coming up, we're going to discuss a book that could help you manifest your dreams. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Federal funding for public media has been cut. In response, we're creating Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. Donations made toward the fund will directly counter the loss of the $2.2 million in federal funds that were cut annually and strengthen our station's foundation to provide our services into the future. Contributing to this fund is easy and quick and makes all the difference to our station. Help build the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
Support comes from Moody Center for the Arts, presenting a site-specific dance performance inspired by their current exhibition, Biomorph, choreographed by visiting artist Gabrielle Lamb. Thursday, October 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. More at moody.rice.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
All right, Celeste, I have a book title for you.
Bring it.
Badass Manifesting.
Love it. I feel it. The energy is already starting.
It's the fifth book by Lambda Literary Award-winning author, writer, speaker Jenny Block. She writes about topics ranging from women's issues to lifestyle to travel. She's written a previous book, Be That Unicorn, and her new book, which releases next week, aims to help readers find their inner confidence and manifest success in their lives through a series of powerful and passionate stories and mantras. Jenny Block, welcome to Hello Houston. You excited for this book launch?
I sure am, and thank you so much for having me today.
All right, so give us sort of a rundown. I think I sort of touched on it here, but BA Manifesting, what exactly? I think that's how I'm going to call it.
I like that.
I'm on public radio, Jenny. I can't have any cuss words going on here. So this, okay, so manifesting our inner core. What is your sort of tried and true on that?
So my experience has been that the word manifesting has gotten sort of a bad name for itself, that it's become this idea that if you just wish and wish and wish for something, it will magically come true. And when it doesn't come true, you somehow messed up, or the magic failed you, or there's no such thing as manifesting. And I don't believe any of that is true. I believe that manifesting is more than vision boards, more than wishing and dreaming, but doing that wishing and dreaming, planning ahead for what you want, and then putting yourself in the room where it happens. So this book is really about how to really make things happen, how to take the steps that will get you to where you want to be.
And it's interesting, you know, as you lay that all out, I think you're right. We often think of manifestation as like it's just a thought, but there's a process. So what are some of the tangible parts of the process that someone can do to help bring their dreams to life?
So the book really, I really want it to be a book that you could use, read it, but also really use it. So each book, in each chapter, I share a story about why that mantra of that chapter is important to me, what happened to me and what actually worked. And then I take you through the process of that mantra. So you start every day by saying, and we are on public radio, I am a BA, and I am whatever the thing is that we're talking about today. And so it's interesting because this sort of came out of an actual experience that I had that I still can't believe is true. I MC at music festivals in the summer in Michigan on the land, which is where Michigan Women's Music Festival used to take place. And every year they do a 50-50 raffle. You know, they sell the tickets, and if you win, you get 50% and 50%, you know, goes to the charity. So I got to the land that year and I said, I have to win this year because I'm going to give all the money back to the charity. And my friend was like, okay, let's manifest it. And I was like, yeah, okay, woo, 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 let's manifest it. And I said, yeah, okay, show me what to do. And she sort of led me to this process of saying it out loud and writing it down and imagining like a full body feel of what would happen when I won, not if I won, but when I won. And then I bought tickets, because you have to buy the tickets. And miracle of all miracles, sure enough, on that last day, and the winner is Jenny Block. Woo! And I thought, wow, okay. And I handed over that big fat check and it was amazing. Now, that's an example that's more, that maybe does have a little woo-woo to it. But the book shares all kinds of stories of things like during COVID when all my work dried up because there was no entertainment to write about, no food to write about. And someone said, does anybody know anyone at the New York Times? I know of a cool wedding. And I thought, I don't, but I could figure it out. I've been with the New York Times for 5 years now.
Very nice. So, Jenny, self-help books, along with murder mysteries, are sort of the top genres out there on the bookshelves. What makes your self-help book better than someone else's?
I think you'll want to read it. Everyone who reads it says it sounds just like me. People have said that my superpower is making other people feel good about themselves. That was why I wrote the last book, Be That Unicorn, so you could sort of have me in your back pocket cheerleading you along all day. This book is similar in that you are going to really enjoy the stories. You're going to really feel connected to them and to me, I hope. And then you're going to feel empowered to do the things that maybe you thought you don't deserve or you can't have or you're not good enough for or blah, 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 whatever your inner critic is telling you that nonsense, and to silence that and to really want to make change.
You know, Jenny, what about disappointment? One out of the 10 times.
No lottery win? Is that what you're saying?
You know how many times I hold that lottery ticket in my hand, Jenny, and I feel the feeling.
I feel it.
And it doesn't happen. What do you say about that?
So, you know, a couple of things. One, I'm with you on the lottery disappointment. And I do always tell people that we have to work within the laws of physics, like that, you know, manifesting doesn't cure cancer, although I believe a positive attitude certainly helps along with, you know, the medical help you can receive. But I do think that those disappointments, and I know people hate when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, and I stand by it. They're on purpose. The reason we didn't get that thing, maybe we didn't really put ourselves in the right room. Maybe we didn't really want it as much as we thought we did. When I was in my early 20s, I kept whining and moaning about wanting to be an actress. So much so that my dad was finally like, well, then just do it. I was like, oh, I can't, you know, I don't live in New York. He's like, well, go. Oh, I can't, I don't have enough money. Okay, well, I don't have enough money either, but here's money. Go get started. Oh, I don't know anyone. Okay, well, I'll introduce. I mean, just wouldn't let me until I finally said, I guess that's not really what I want.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to take the disappointments. We have to look at really what we were shooting for and what we did to get there.
Jenny Block, writer of Badass Manifesting, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Coming up, we're going to continue diving into today's top stories. And apparently on our YouTube, maybe we need to go back and revisit some of our stories from this hour. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston. We'll be back.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Did you know your gift to Houston Public Media could go twice or even 3 times as far through your employer's matching gift program? Many companies will match the charitable donations of their employees, and some even match gifts from retirees. That means your support for trusted news and programs could have double the impact for our community. Find out if your company participates at houstonpublicmedia.org/match.
Join us for Hello Houston, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., taking a deep dive into the stories that matter to Houstonians, keeping you informed, engaged, and entertained, with a generous support from our founding sponsor, John Bradshaw.
They've put a 20% chance for showers in the forecast for this afternoon, the high near 93. Currently, it's 85. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12:01.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Amy Held. President Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney are meeting at the White House. They're discussing soured trade relations after Trump imposed steep tariffs on imports from Canada, a top U.S. trading partner. It comes on day 7 of the federal shutdown that's furloughed 750,000 federal workers. By law that Trump signed in his first term, workers are guaranteed back pay after the shutdown ends. A reporter asked Trump whether this time around that's still the case.
It really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way.
Trump did not offer specifics. The administration has reiterated threats of using the shutdown to justify mass layoffs. Trump also said today he will be eliminating some government programs. While the government shutdown won't touch federal benefits like Medicare and Social Security, nutrition assistance for pregnant women and new parents could take a hit. NPR's Jennifer Ludden reports.
The program WIC helps nearly 7 million people access healthy foods, but the National WIC Association estimates money for it will run out in about 2 weeks. After that, states will have to close the gap if their budgets allow. Lucia Graves in New Hampshire says if WIC benefits for her 4-year-old daughter end, it will be a lot harder to make ends meet.
The prices of milk, the prices of eggs, the price of bread, all of these things are astronomical. So it would be a huge hit to us.
If the shutdown drags out, the WIC Association says local clinics may have to triage, prioritizing pregnant or breastfeeding women and turning away preschool-aged children. Jennifer Ludden, NPR News, Washington.
Today marks 2 years since Hamas militants attacked Israel, killing about 1,200 people and sparking the war in Gaza. Since then, the Gaza Health Ministry says Israeli forces have killed more than 67,000 Palestinians. U.S.-led efforts to reach a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas continue. Now, NPR's Jason DeRose says a new poll from the Washington Post finds many American Jews are critical of how Israel is conducting the war in Gaza.
The poll found that more than 6 in 10 American Jews say Israel has committed war crimes against Palestinians in Gaza. It also found that nearly 4 in 10 describe Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide. The Washington Post poll surveyed 815 American Jews in early September. The findings are in concert with a poll released last month conducted by Ipsos in collaboration with the University of California, Berkeley and the University of Rochester. That earlier study found just 31% of American Jews approve of Israel's military campaign in Gaza over the last 2 years, suggesting there's greater internal difference regarding Israel's actions than once thought. Jason DeRose, NPR News.
And you're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. A long-awaited and highly publicized effort to recall Houston Mayor John Whitmire from office got off to a slow start Monday. Only one person showed up to collect signatures at the main canvassing event. Ethan Hale says he understands the path to reach 63,000 signatures within 30 days is a steep one.
I mean, I think this is a Hail Mary play. The odds they've been stacked against us from day one, but I think to me it doesn't matter. It's about doing what's right. Even if we might fail, but we're gonna put them on blast. We're gonna put eyes on everything going on in the city.
The group, Recall Houston, is critical of Whitmire's public safety and mobility policies. A spokesperson for Whitmire says he is, quote, not distracted and, quote, continues to focus on the job Houstonians elected him to do. Houston-based Occidental Petroleum is selling its chemical business, OxyChem, to Berkshire Hathaway. News 88.7's Natalie Weber tells us more about the nearly $10 billion deal.
OxyChem produces chemicals used in water treatment, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and commercial and residential development. Berkshire and Occidental expect to close on the deal by the end of this year. Occidental will use $6.5 billion from the sale to pay down its debt. Berkshire is Occidental's largest shareholder. In 2019, Berkshire also helped finance Occidental's acquisition of Anadarko Petroleum, offering up $10 billion for the deal. I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
Valero says it has activated its safety flare system at its Houston refinery along the ship channel. A plume of smoke could be seen rising from the facility. This is reportedly due to a, quote, unanticipated power interruption at the plant. The company says this process is done to manage excess material and minimize emissions. According to Harris County Community Awareness Emergency Response, no impact to the surrounding community is expected at this time, and air quality monitoring is being deployed. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to the second hour of Hello Houston. We had a pretty packed first hour, and we were getting a lot of comments, and we just want to make a quick comment. Ernie is out today. He'll be back tomorrow. But, it was interesting. The last hour we did have a candidate who's running for District 18, Carmen Montiel. And I do want to make one clarification. She said that President Biden had opened borders. That is a misconception. The border was not open under the President Biden's administration. Now, there have been policies that have come under criticism, but the borders were not open. So we just wanted to make some clarifications on that. And we did have a lot of calls and comments about that segment.
Yeah. Well, and she made some very broad generalizations about crime and blue cities and red cities. And I wanted her to have the opportunity here to say what she had to say.
That's right.
And there will be plenty of time to call her and to question if you don't agree with her.
That's right. And something that we do here on Hello Houston is we know that there is a long list of candidates who are running for District 18. And so we are allowing and providing this moment for people to join us. And if you have questions or comments, you can always call in at 713-440-8870 and join the conversation. And we did have a caller, Roland, who has called us before. And we like to know that there are people with lots of varied different perspectives. And that's what makes Houston diverse.
We had some texts.
Yes, we did
Marie.
get some texts. Yep.
Marie said your guest hits all the right-wing talking points, including demonization of poor people. Does she want to talk about deficits? Then she needs to look at the number of the congressional budgets that have been put out based on the big horrible, beautiful bill that was passed.
And then we did have, hello, Houston, can someone ask the Carmen for some actual evidence for what she was saying? Please, fact-checking would be helpful. Thank you. Yes, we had been fact-checking, and that's why we wanted to make sure we made that very clear that the President Biden had not opened borders.
Jen in Clear Lake says an abuse of power is never done to protect us. Fear is a vulnerability exploited by authoritarians to divide us and abuse us, just like anywhere else.
And then we did get a YouTube comment. Guada Gomez says, this lady is so proud to be a citizen of this country since 1990 or whatever year, but my family has been in this country for generations. What she didn't experience is segregation / civil rights. So again, we appreciate everybody, for chiming in and joining in and talking to us. Hello Houston is where Houston talks. So. Yeah. That's what we did this morning, and we're going to continue to do that right here on Hello Houston.
Speaking of political science, Mark Jones from Rice University is going to be here in just a few minutes. He's going to talk about all of those state propositions that are on the ballot this November.
And there's, 17?
Yes, there are. Some are good. Some are kind of like,
Yeah, we're gonna try to touch the really important ones.
Yeah, that's what I think we'll do. So, if you thought last hour was something, take a listen to this top story for the 12 o'clock hour.
Brace yourselves. Again, the phone number is 713-440-8870. I'm sure we will have some calls coming in for this. Thanks, Frank. I'm going to jump into the top headlines. The Supreme Court hears arguments today on questions of sexuality and government regulation. Once again, a case pits conservative Christian groups against the LGBTQ community. At issue in the case is conversion therapy. It's generally defined as treatment used to cure a person's attraction to the same sex, in other words, to make a gay person straight, and to cure a person's desire to change their gender identity by making them comfortable with their gender at birth. Every major medical organization, from the American Medical Association to the American Psychological Association, has repudiated the practice, finding that it doesn't work and instead leads to deep depression and suicidal thoughts in minors. As a result of these findings, half of states have banned the practice for those under the age of 18. The conservative Christian legal group Alliance Defending Freedom, along with Colorado therapist Kaylee Childs, are challenging the ban on conversion therapy, contending that it violates a therapist's right of free speech in talk therapy. What do you think? Should the Supreme Court make conversion therapy available in all states? Is the ban a violation of free speech? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Oh, come on. It doesn't work. It does, no. And not only does it not work, the people that generally are being converted by this therapy are under the age of 18. So we don't know if they're willing participants or if they've been coerced into this therapy against their will. Mm-hmm. If you want if you want to have conversion therapy, go for it, but be 21 years old or older so that you as an adult can make the decision that is what you would like to try to do to change yourself.
Well, I always, in these type of situations, if you want to take out all the different possibilities of, biases and things, you look to the experts. And what do the experts say? The American Medical Association to the American Psychological Association has repudiated the practice, finding that it does not work. So here you have the top elite experts within the psychological field, in the psychiatric field, saying this does not help. This, in fact, can be harmful. So to me, if you have a doctor telling you, this is not good for you, this is not, over and over, we continue to say that. To me, this does not seem like a complex issue when we have the experts saying this could be harmful to young people.
Except conservative Christian groups would say God can do anything, and that God's word is the ultimate word, not the American Psychiatric Association. And that if the Bible condemns homosexuality, then we should have conversion therapy and convert gay kids, it's gay kids, to straight kids. But yet they won't recognize transgender, will they? They want to convert gay to straight, but they don't want to, if it's that easy.
This is so complex for young people that are facing these types of situations and questions, and even kids that don't ask themselves these questions, but even kids that are just going through puberty are so vulnerable and sometimes feel alienated. That is it to me. It's sad, and I feel for those kids that have to be put through this type of scrutiny. It's not fair.
Well, and you have to ask yourself: is someone born straight or born gay? I mean, as Harvey Fierstein often said, that Barbara Walters, you look through the eyes to the world, and everyone you see is straight until proven otherwise. Harvey said, I look through it, everybody's gay until proven otherwise. It's the same world. It's just how we see it.
Alex Garza on YouTube says, a great documentary film to watch is Pray Away, which is on Netflix, in that the founders denounce conversion therapy. So again, 713-440-8870. It's interesting times, and it's not easy.
Well, I think free speech, I'm all for free speech. And so if therapists feel like their free speech is being taken away from them, then they have a right to go to the Supreme Court about that. The problem I have is it's teenagers under the age of 18.
Right.
And like you say, it hasn't been proven to do anything.
Mm-mm.
So if people want conversion therapy, let them be 21 and let them say,
and seek it out themselves as adults. Yep.
I'm an adult. I can make this decision. I'd like to see a psychiatrist. And therefore, that psychiatrist should have free speech.
That's right. That's an interesting point, right? Because they're not saying that conversion therapy is illegal. They're just saying that in some states, they've banned it.
No, they banned it.
So it is illegal in some states. We do have some calls coming in. Again, 713-440-8870. You are welcome to join us right here on Hello Houston.
And if you if you're someone out there listening to us and you've been through conversion therapy and it worked for you, feel free to call us and tell us. I'd be very interested, because in my sort of rough Google searches, I haven't been able to find anyone that has actually been successful. Now, there's a way to deny who you really are, and perhaps that, speaking of manifest, perhaps that manifests itself and you become quote unquote straight when in your heart, you're gay.
I know a family who sought that out for their son, and it was very emotional, and it was very detrimental. I don't know them very, very well, but I do know them, and I know that person, and it did not work. And if anything, I think that mom would say it's one of her biggest parental regrets to this day.
Well, Wayne is on the line from Galveston. We're at 713-440-8870. Welcome to Hello Houston, Wayne. What's your comment or question?
Well, my comment is God don't make no mistakes. And he took a rib from a man that made him a helper. But you got to also, Jesus didn't even fix the problem when he was here. In the Bible I read where Lot had some virgin daughters in the house, but the men asked for the men, send the men out here, and it was biblical. This way before we was even thought about. People try to fix situations that they need to keep their business out of because the parents know what's in front of them. They know how their child is being developed. But if you watch the movie Little Richard, his daddy took him to a boxing place to make him to be a man, but he got knocked out, and his daddy took him home. But little Milton, he didn't hide his thing. But what do society do? Society like entertainers, Little Rothschild, Rock Hudson, everybody. But back in the 60s, everybody mind their business. Now everybody's in everybody's business. But when you stand in front of Judgment Day, in front of God, you're not going to be standing behind that person. It's only that person going to be standing for Judgment Day.
Oh, thank you, Wayne. I believe God loves everybody. That's just my belief.
Thank you for giving us a call, Wayne. And we're going to head to April. April from the Galleria. April, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for taking my call. So I'm a trained therapist, actually was trained as a Christian therapist myself, have worked in churches, and it just makes me really sad to see this conversation coming up again, working with clients who are part of the LGBTQ community and knowing the immense harm that's done when they take in these messages that something's wrong with them, that they're not good enough, that they can't be accepted. It's so painful. And it's really hard for me as a therapist to, see this coming up again in light of our kind of recent, political shifts in the country. And so definitely want to speak out against it as it just being really harmful. And then also just in the broader context, and even, again, as someone who grew up Christian, went to seminary even, I feel like conversion therapy is really just about control. Parents or other people want to control someone. They want to make them who they want them to be. And if we think about it from a psychological and even a biblical perspective, we're meant to have free will in our own life, in our own faith, and even as a Christian in our faith with God, we're meant to have free will in that walk, but also just as humans, right? Control never works. Trying to micromanage someone's life never works, and it just harms the relationship. So I really hope this doesn't become, part of what therapists are using again, because I see it as just deeply harmful.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, April.
Thank you so much for giving us a call. And let's head to Lynn from Cyprus. Lynn, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Thank you for having me. My comment is that we're not talking about free speech here. What we're talking about is medical malpractice. If a doctor says to you, take arsenic, it'll cure your COVID, we know that is not true. That is not his free speech to say that. That is medical malpractice, what he's doing. And it's the same with conversion therapy. We know it doesn't work. We know it can be harmful. Therefore, to recommend it is medical malpractice. It's not a matter of free speech.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn. And the idea that we want it to work, that some people out there want it to work, is frightening to me as well. Because rather than just accept people for who they are, they want to change them. And then that's why it doesn't work. You can't change people.
And then we did receive a text that says, I would just like to say that gay folks, trans folks, etc. are all the children of God. These things don't mean that they are any less perfect or beautiful in the eyes of God, even if some people might not be able to see it. Jen from Clear Lake. Jen, thanks for chiming in. And then we have one more message, and this is about our interview that we had at the end of the last hour, towards the end of around 11.
Carmen Montiel, yeah.
Carmen Montiel, who is running for Congress District 18, searching for self, says glad you all addressed, or glad they addressed the interview, but you still have a responsibility when you have someone your megaphone. They have lots of other places to say with their message without pushback. And then we also, and just to that point, yes, however, we are having different candidates on Hello Houston. We've had multiple other candidates that have all been Democratic candidates. She is, I believe, the only Republican candidate that is running for District 18. So we wanted to make sure that we had her on as well to represent the Republican candidates in the Republican Party. And then Jeff from Northwest Houston is on the line about politics. Jeff, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Jeff, you there?
Yep. Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, Jeff.
The Congresswoman was quick to point out that the Democrats, wouldn't talk to anybody. They're hateful and angry. And my experience, a gentleman in the neighborhood for 20 years, we were friends, never spoke a word of politics ever. And I put the wrong sign up in my yard one election, and all of a sudden, if we came close to each other, he turned his head away from me. I wish we could have asked her to help me understand how I was not talking to him and being hateful and angry. And I apologize. To add one more thing, homosexuality is in the Bible. Ask people about adultery. I think it made a list, and nobody seems to care about that. I would love an explanation there, too. Thank you, guys. Great job.
Thank you, Jeff, for giving us a call. Again, the phone number is 713-440-8870. You're listening to Hello Houston, where Houston talks, and speaking about making sure that we are providing facts on this show. There are 5 other candidates running for the Republican seat for District 18. We will reach out to them as well to make sure that they can join us on Hello Houston.
Yep. Well, so far so good on the therapy. Everyone seems to agree that it's just not going to work and perhaps shouldn't even be tried in the first place.
American Medical Association to the American Psychological Association.
It'll be interesting to see what the Supreme Court actually comes down on in this. All right. So in just a few weeks, we're going to gain an hour of sleep as daylight saving time ends Sunday, November 2nd. It's always the first Sunday in November.
Now, Frank, you were before. Everybody always asks us, we see you chit-chatting. What are y'all talking about? We were talking about this, about daylight savings time.
Well, Texas, Governor Abbott signed into at least Texas law that we would make daylight saving time permanent year-round.
That's right.
But that only works if the United States does it. So if the Congress doesn't do it, then we're not going to do it. Here, Arizona and Hawaii are the only two states that don't observe daylight saving time. They don't change their clocks. Here's the thing: if we fell back a half an hour instead of a full hour, it would solve everything. And then left it there. Fall back this November 2nd. We fell back 1/2 hour instead of a full hour and just left it and never touched it again. It would be just fine.
Okay, but why half an hour versus?
Because we would go from a 6:40 sunrise to like a 6:10 sunrise on December the 21st, the shortest day of daylight. And instead of a 5:30 sunset, it would be more like a 6 o'clock sunset.
Oh my gosh, Frank, I can barely keep my days together.
No, but it's only half. I mean, the problem with not having it is that the sun wouldn't come up until 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah, no. I
but
don't want that.
we could deal better with 7:30 in the morning. Than 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's just, and then rather than an 8:30 sunset in June, we would have an 8 o'clock sunset, which isn't so bad, especially when the sun is what makes the heat, by the way. It'd be nice to get it down. So if we just did, and there are countries that do just a half an hour.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not
out
out to lunch, Celeste. But I've looked at all the timetables for across the country. I even did a whole blog on this. If we would just do it 1/2 hour, and said, okay, that's it. Instead of 6:30, it's now 6 o'clock.
And then just leave it.
And then leave it. And then leave it. Never touch it again.
All of basically for the rest of the season, for the rest of
time,
it would be fine.
It would be fine. Listen to Frank on this.
All right.
I know
Listen
what I'm talking about. Prove me wrong.
You know what we are going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the ballot coming up, the November election. So coming up on Hello Houston, we will speak with Mark Jones, the political science professor at Rice University, about the state propositions on the ballot this November. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Josh Adams, General Manager of Houston Public Media. This station just lost $2.2 million in federal support annually. To keep our station strong, we've launched the Resiliency Fund, powered by community members just like you. Your support will help bridge the funding gap and ensure these programs remain free and accessible to everyone. If public media and this station matter to you, now is the time to act. Support the Resiliency Fund today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
0887.
Hi, I'm Manoush Zamarodi, and our world is changing so fast. On the TED Radio Hour, we invite innovators, researchers, and activists to unpack those changes with us.
Just about all companies are becoming technology companies or technology-enabled companies.
Listen to the TED Radio Hour from NPR every week for conversations that will deepen your understanding of our changing world.
The TED Radio Hour, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Bayou City Art Festival, October 10th through 12th in Memorial Park, an outdoor gallery with over 200 artists, entertainment, and food. Tickets at BayouCityArtFestival.com.
Support comes from Elmore, communicating with clarity and inspiration, collaborating with executive leadership to create expert internal and external communications strategy. Elmore, listen, clarify, communicate. More at elmorepr.com.
Support Support comes from St. John's College in Santa Fe, offering a great books education with a January start, allowing early high school grads and those taking a gap semester to be sophomores by fall. St. John's College. More at sjc.edu. Support comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider dedicated to supporting the state's businesses through safety-focused policyholder plans and annual programs. More at texasmutual.com/TXM Advantage. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Trinity University in San Antonio, working to challenge and support students as they prepare for lives of purpose and continue on to fulfilling careers and advanced study. More at trinity.edu. Support comes from the 2025-2026 in-print Brown Reading Series, featuring Adam Johnson, Pulitzer Prize winner of The Orphaned Master Son, reading from his new novel, The Wayfinder, Wednesday, October 15th. More at inprint.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
Coming up in a little bit, we're going to be talking about 17 statewide propositions that are going to appear at the top of the ballot, most of them dealing with billions in property tax cuts and other major policy changes.
Yep, 17.
17. Mark Jones from Rice University is going to be joining us in a little bit, in a few minutes.
So some YouTube reaction to my half hour instead of hour change.
Yeah, tell me.
Sophia Wang, this is her first time on to watch.
Hi, Sophia.
She likes it.
Okay.
Then
I like it too.
I know. Well, she's saying she agrees with never changing it again. She's not sure about the half hour. My British computer guy says it would cost. Well, yeah, she's half and half. My British computer guy says that 30 minutes would really screw up so many computer systems that it would cost millions. Now, I don't know about that. I know that.
Remember Y2K?
I know, and it didn't do anything.
It didn't do anything.
Yeah. So I'm not a computer expert.
Me neither.
But I can read a sunset and a sunrise timetable, and I can tell you if you just did it for a half an hour, you would be in much better shape.
Yes.
I know.
Well, we're going to move right into our guest has joined us, and we were just mentioning how this year there are 17 statewide propositions, from tax relief for homeowners and businesses to new rules on bail and even investments in water infrastructure. These constitutional amendments could shape the future of Texans in big ways, both in your wallet and in your community. To help us make a sense of what's on the ballot and what's at stake, we're joined today by Mark Jones, political science professor at Rice University. Mark, welcome to Hello Houston.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
And if you would like to join the question, if you have a question or a comment, I said if you want to join the question.
The conversation.
A conversation. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Okay, so Mark, Frank and I were looking at the different propositions, and right off the bat, what is one that you are like, you all, when you get to that voting box, you need to know about this proposition?
What do we really need
What
to
do we really
understand?
need to know? Yeah.
Well, I think the first thing to start off with is going back to the constitutional process through which these amendments are placed on the ballot. That requires a 2/3 vote in the Senate and a 2/3 vote in the House. That means that when these get on the ballot, there's usually a strong level of consensus behind them. That is, you have both strong Democratic support as well as strong Republican support for these amendment items. So it's tough for anything that's really controversial, generally has a tough time getting on the ballot simply because it gets blocked at the legislative process. I think if we're looking over these and thinking about what are the ones that we really want to focus in on? I think some of them are related to say taxes, particularly homestead exemption. So the one that I think is going to catch a lot of people's eye and probably has the biggest impact on them personally and directly is Proposition 13, which increases the exemption for residential homesteads for school district or ISD taxes, which are the biggest taxes, from $100,000 to $140,000. Okay. So that means effectively for everybody will pay taxes on $40,000 less of their house moving forward if this passes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the ones that I think most people, if they're thinking about, okay, how does this affect me directly? That's the one that's going to affect the most people in the broadest way.
So, Mark, I know that you're not a Harris County commissioner, but it seems like we always get these reductions in property tax, but then they just go and reassess our property to be worth more, so that in the end of the day, we really don't get a break. True or
right.
false?
That's been one of the issues we've faced with Harris County. And that's where the state legislature, particularly Senator Paul Bettencourt and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, have been trying to close some of the loopholes that historically places like Harris County have used to increase taxes. For instance, most recently, they use what's often referred to as the barrel loophole that allows you to go above the normal level without getting voter approval if you have a natural disaster, something the legislature is working on closing. But I think that was one of the issues that we saw in Commissioner's Court most recently, where we saw a real split between between Commissioner Ellis and especially County Judge Hidalgo, who wanted to significantly raise people's taxes, and a rejection of that by Commissioners Briones, Garcia, and Ramsey, who blocked that move. But certainly that's been, I think, the sensation that many have had in Harris County. That is, the state legislature and the governor work to reduce taxes, but then when it gets down to the county level, the county finds a way to increase the taxes. And it's the same sometimes with the ISDs, although they have greater constraints placed on them. What this will do, though, is while you as a homeowner would pay less for your school property tax, the school districts are kept whole. That is, the state's providing money in the budget to make sure that the school districts don't lose any money from this.
So, Mark, one of the propositions that popped out to me immediately was Proposition 15, and that's codifying parental rights. And the ballot language is the constitutional amendment affirming that parents are the primary decision makers for their children. Can you talk to me a little bit about the intent behind this and why this is essentially a proposition?
Well, this is one of those more symbolic pieces of legislation that just wants to clarify that it's that in terms of parents and in terms of things like schools, that the people who have the right to determine what's best for their children are the parents rather than, say, government. Mm-hmm. We often see this on a lot of these items. This is more of a symbolic piece of legislation that's designed simply to show that the Texas lawmakers are signaling that it's parents who should be deciding what's best for their children, not the government.
So what, Mark, would happen if the parents sent a note to the school saying, please take the 10 Commandments off the wall?
Well, you can conflict with state we have state law. Just because parents are the primary decision makers doesn't allow them to break the law. But this is more symbolic in the sense that it says that when push comes to shove, and if it doesn't contradict our existing law, parents should be the ones that make the key decisions about their children's lives, not the government. But you definitely don't have the ability to. It doesn't overturn existing law.
Well, I don't know about law versus policy. What about the parent who says, please call my child John instead of Jane now? It's fine with me, and I'd like that made in the public record at school. Would they have that
once
right?
Again, it's their primary. This is mostly symbolic legislation, so there's really it would revolve around the interpretation of it in the courts. But the legislation itself doesn't really speak to that. It just sort of says generally that parents should be the primary decision makers. And once again, it's symbolic legislation in the sense it's signaling from Republicans and others that parents should be the ones making key decisions for their children, but that doesn't allow them to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I get it. Doesn't mean anything.
So
Pretty much.
Mark, there were two propositions that we have we've had full-on segments right here on Hello Houston about. The first one is Proposition 3, bail reform, and then we also did one about Proposition 14, funding for dementia research and prevention. I want to start with Proposition 3, bail reform. So the ballot language will say the constitutional amendment requiring the denial of bail under certain circumstances to persons accused of certain offenses punishable as a felony. Walk us through this one, because I know that there have been advocate groups that have spoken partially for it, that it's kind of an interesting proposition in regards to bail reform. Walk us through that. People. Yeah.
Well, right. So, one of the critiques of, and this has been directed by the governor and others towards Harris County and Harris County judges, is that they often let people out on bail who have committed violent crimes. That could be murder, it could be rape, it could be human trafficking, and that you have these dangerous individuals who at least the majority of the public agrees should not be allowed to be out on bail while they're pending trial. Now, the response you often get from some of the judges is that their hands are tied, and that's correct, that under this current state constitution, it's very difficult for judges to completely deny bail. That is, it's very constrained. So what this legislation will do when it passes, and it's virtually certain to pass, is it will allow judges to deny bail. And in fact, it will mean that effectively you won't be able to it's better said, the judges will have a greater ability to deny bail if they want to. Now, they still will have to actually follow through with it. But at least what this will require that a large group of people who commit murder and commit other serious crimes are not allowed to be provided bail. So it both, in one way, ties the hands of judges, meaning they will have to deny bail. But it also, I think, removes it allows judges who want to deny bail to do so, something they presently can't do. Now, one thing that, there's a loophole that, one that could occur with this is that while judges who want to grant bail but are not allowed I guess one way to think about it is that the judges will have to, judges who are denying bail presently will have that ability to do so in a way that's greater than under the current legislation. So it should result in fewer individuals who have committed serious crimes being out on bail, which is something that many have criticized Harris County judges for. And those judges have often responded saying, hey, we can't deny bail because it's in the state constitution. Now, the fear, though, is that we'll get more people denied bail who have been charged with these crimes, but actually haven't been convicted of them.
Okay, let's move to the bill about dementia and $3 billion.
Proposition 14.
Yeah, would be put aside to create a whole dementia research center. It sounds like a great idea, but $3 billion with dementia research it's going to be gone by Tuesday. Yeah. I mean, it takes so much money for dementia research.
That's
so. Mark, what do you think?
Follows the model. Yeah, this follows the model of the very successful CPRIT, the Cancer Research and Prevention Institute of Texas, where state money was used to jumpstart cancer research via CPRIT. This was a policy that was very important to the Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and so he was one of the people that heavily pushed it through to provide this money. And the goal of it is or at least the idea is that while in and of itself it's not going to fund all of the research, it will jumpstart it and allow Texas and Texas medical schools and other research institutes to leverage the money they can get from DPRIT, the Dementia Prevention and Research Institute of Texas, and leverage that to get other money, say from the federal government or from foundations, to study dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other disorders.
Okay, quick on Proposition 6. That's the securities tax ban that's going to prevent the state from creating new taxes on securities transactions like stock trading. And obviously, this is so we can have our own stock market open in Texas. Do you Do you have an opinion on that? Do you think it's a good idea for Texas to have its own stock exchange?
Well, I mean, I think it's part of Texas. It's the idea there's creating your own stock exchange and then it's making it function. But there's no natural right that, say, New York has for the New York Stock Exchange or Chicago has for the NASDAQ. Those are more historical artifacts that were created long ago. So if there's market forces that want to see a Texas stock market, the legislature, it is important for the legislature to at least create the legislative vehicles to allow it to be successful if there is private demand for it. That doesn't mean that's going to be the case. For instance, the gold depository that was authorized several years back has never really come to fruition, and there's no guarantee that a stock exchange would as well. But the legislature is, by passing this type of legislation and putting it into the Constitution, clearing the way for the potential for a stock exchange to form by removing one of the potential barriers to it being operational here in the Lone Star State.
Yeah.
Mark, when we look at the 17 statewide propositions, what is the likelihood some of these won't pass, and which propositions do you think will not pass?
I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, by and large, I think the best, if you're betting, you would say that they all are going to pass. But where if they're going to fail, I think it's probably going to be one of the ones that is seen as using funds and giving public money to do something. And that could be Proposition 1 that gives money to the Texas State Technical College system. It could be Proposition 4 that creates a water fund. Or it could even be the DPRIT, although that's less likely, the ones that could fall, because those are places where effectively tax money is being targeted to a specific activity, whether it's dementia research, funding for state technical colleges, or funding for water funds. But right now, we're not seeing any really organized campaigns against these propositions. And I suspect, or if people at the Texas State Technical College or in the medical schools or in various water-related boards are doing their job correctly, they should be monitoring this with public opinion research to know if their potential propositions in danger or not. The reality, though, it is difficult to poll on this topic because fewer than 1 in 10 or only around 1 in 10 registered voters will actually turn out to vote in this election.
Wow.
We'll actually have a slight spike in turnout here in Harris County simply because of the special election in Congressional District 18. But by and large, turnout in these elections is historically very low across the state. In many counties, it'll be the only thing on the ballot. And other places like Harris County, it's the most notable thing on the ballot. And none of these 17 issues are really going to drive that many people to turn out to vote. Although specific groups, say in the water realm or at the Texas State Technical Colleges, I'm sure encouraging all of their constituents to mobilize and go out and support just to be on the safe side. And you never know, because while it looks straightforward, sometimes some of this language can sort of give voters pause when they're in the ballot box reading it, which is the first time that many of them will take a look at it.
Right.
And if something in the language is just they don't trust, or they strikes them as sort of askew, that could cause the proposition to fail. We've had one related to judicial retirement age that failed 2 years ago simply for that reason. It wasn't because of a real campaign against it. It was just that voters didn't quite understand what was going on with it. And if they don't understand, they're more likely to vote no than yes.
Mark, we did get a couple of questions through text.
Yeah, one text, bail reform. So now the norm will be guilty until proven innocent, incarcerated until acquitted. How long until there's creep in this so other less serious offenses are also denied bail? That's from CK in Magnolia. Do you think that would happen, Mark, that we end up seeing even less serious offenses not being allowed bail money?
Well, there was actually another constitutional amendment proposal that barely failed that would have effectively prevented bail for undocumented immigrants who are charged with committing less serious crimes. So yeah, that not only is theoretical, but it also is potentially possible. And then what we're likely to see is once this goes into force, there will be some Democratic judges who will try to find loopholes around it in some instances. And so generally every action like that will elicit a reaction from Republican lawmakers in Austin in the next legislative session in 2027 to try to close those loopholes. And so I think what this does suggest is that we're going to see an evolving process where the Republican majority in Austin, with some strong Democratic support in some instances, tries to reduce the ability of certain offenders to obtain bail. Like I said, here it targeted those charged with violent crimes, which is very popular across the majority of voters. But there also was a constitutional amendment related to undocumented immigrants that came close to passage.
Okay.
Mark, we did also get one quick question. Melody Locke on YouTube says, regarding parental rights, the Proposition 15 that we talked about, codifying parental rights, is there anything about immunizations in there at all?
No, I mean, the legislation itself is just really vague. Okay. I mean, it's like I said, this was more just sort of codifying broader U.S. constitutional rights in the Texas Constitution that parents have the primary responsibility for their children. There isn't really much that in terms of specifics related to it. And that's sort of, it's similar to some other things that we had on the ballot. There's one that sort of only U.S. citizens can vote that are also sort of just sort of symbolic legislation more than anything else.
Mark Jones is a political science professor at Rice University. Mark, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Coming up, we're going to talk to chef and Netflix personality Samin Nosrat. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues. With federal funding cuts, Houston Public Media has lost $2.2 million annually. In response, we have launched the Resiliency Fund, an urgent initiative to protect the programs and services you rely on. That includes PBS Kids, that provides free educational programming to children and families across Greater Houston. Your support of the Resiliency Fund helps keep this vital service accessible to our community. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Good Reason Houston, working to ensure every child in every Houston neighborhood has access to a strong public school that prepares them for opportunities and a living wage after graduation. More at goodreasonhouston.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
Samin Nosrat is a celebrated chef and author known for her best-selling James Beard award-winning cookbook, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, as well as her Netflix series of the same name. Her latest cookbook, Good Things, Recipes and Rituals to Share with the People You Love, features more than 125 of her favorite recipes to cook for herself and friends. Samin will be appearing at the Wortham Center tomorrow, October 8th, to discuss this new cookbook as well as engage with audiences in a Q&A. To tell us more about Good Things and her distinguished culinary career, we welcome Samin Nosrat. Samin, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello, Houston. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So talk to us a little bit about this new book of yours.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. It's called Good Things, and it's really just a collection of the things that I cook at home for myself and the people I love. I've had a really hard sort of transition from the last several years of, I wrote this first book, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. It got so much attention, and then we made this show, and it was kind of like turn my life upside down to get all of this these awards and attention. And then the pandemic hit, and I was really just lonely and sitting at home with the assignment to write another book and feeling really disconnected from the joy that I've always felt in the kitchen. So it's been a long journey to sort of reorient myself around, cooking and its place in my life and the meaning that it offers. And I felt like that was sort of the most beautiful and helpful thing that I could share with my audience.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Samin, hi, it's Frank Billingsley. So let me ask you this. Who inspired your love for cooking? Was it a parent, a grandparent, or did you just come about it on your own?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, my family's from Iran, and I was born in San Diego, and I grew up eating sort of like my mom's amazing Persian food and also so much Mexican food, down the border.
Yeah.
And I've always been a really good eater. But my mom, I think like a lot of immigrant parents really felt like she didn't want me in the kitchen. She wanted me doing my homework and getting good grades, which is what I did. And then I sort of just fell into the kitchen life when I got a job at a restaurant in Berkeley called Chez Panisse, which is sort of one of our American, temples to gastronomy. and it was so inspiring. And at the time I was in college and I was an English major. I wanted to graduate and become a poet. I did not really understand how real world work works,
Mm-hmm.
And so I was so inspired by the cooks there and their relationship to this ever-changing menu and the way that it felt like they could make anything and it would always taste good. And so I wanted to learn how to do that too.
Do you have a go-to? Like I have a few go-tos for recipes and hors d'oeuvres. Do you have a few go-tos that are kind of quick, simple, and delicious?
Oh, I definitely do. And in fact, that's what the book is very full of. Is I realized over the writing of the book that I don't cook the kind of impressive restaurant food that I think people, expect from a chef, like a capital C chef.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more of a home cook. So like one of my things I always do when people come over is I make like this special popcorn that's in the book. I call it my forever popcorn. And it's inspired by this brand of popcorn called Bjorn corn. And they take nutritional yeast and they grind it up super finely. And so I pop the popcorn and I mix it in what I call my patented 2-bowl method. Like I put all the popcorn in a bowl with nutritional yeast and butter and salt, and then a second bowl I overturn and put on top, and I shake it so it's all gets super coated, and it's like everybody loves it. The kids love it, the adults love it. So that's kind of what I make for people when they come over. And then, my most simple sort of like go-to chicken recipe is just like super simple grilled chicken thighs that I just season with salt and a little bit of lemon zest and olive oil and grill. And then I have all the different flavor combos in the book of like, if you want to make it for tacos, add cumin and chili. If you want to make it teriyaki style, add soy sauce and a little brown sugar and garlic. And so, but I cook very, very simply at home.
But, that's interesting that you say this about the second book, because Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat was, your first book. And I think that so many people felt like that was such a great book for beginners because it really allowed a home chef to start thinking as like a cook, a real cook who can take things and make it more elaborate. So, do you feel like this second book, Good Things, has any parallel to you personally as you have evolved going from that first book to this second book?
What a nice question. Thank you so much for asking that. I think there are a lot of parallels. I think my own, I always think I had a really sort of interesting and almost backwards trajectory as a cook because I came from my mom's kitchen where like I learned how to make scrambled eggs and like English muffin pizza.
Yeah.
To then a kitchen, or to then actually college where I was excelling at like quesadillas. And then all of a sudden I was in this world-class kitchen learning, truly how to make everything from some of the best chefs in the world. Mm-hmm. And then I spent the next 15 years making stuff at that level. So it's only in the last 10 years that I've really become a home cook and really simplified the way I cook. And I do think Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat is very much a translation of that restaurant cooking and the restaurant thinking. Mm-hmm. And this book is a little bit more of a message of like, you know what, the stuff we do at home doesn't have to be restaurant level and it can still be really good. Here are some tips and tricks. I'm still always going to be a teacher. I'm very curious. I want to learn and then share that knowledge. But really, it's kind of about lowering the stakes for home cooking.
I'm going to make your buttermilk chicken as soon as I can get to a stove.
Yeah, I just made it last week when I was home. It's so good. It's just so good.
Well, everybody's excited that you're here in Houston. Have you been here before?
You know, I have family in Houston, and
good.
so as I'm sure you know, there are so many like Persians across Houston. So
Yeah.
I do have some distant relatives there. So when I was a kid, I visited a couple times.
Good.
But it's been over 40 years, so I'm really excited to be back.
Well, we're excited to have you back. What can people expect this tomorrow?
Well, I'm traveling on. I'm calling it my Texas road trip with my friend and podcast co-host Rishikesh Hirway. We have a podcast called Home Cooking, and so we have a very fun vibe. And he's going to interview me, in our typical sort of silly vibe about just cooking. And we have audience questions that I'll answer, and then we'll take more questions from the audience. We'll talk about community and ritual and meaning and cooking, and I can't wait to see everyone.
That sounds lovely.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Samin Nosrat is a chef and author of the James Beard Award-winning cookbook Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, and the recently released cookbook Good Things. Samin Nosrat will be appearing at the Wortham Center tomorrow, October 8th at 7:30 p.m. And that brings us to the end of our
Two-man show. Two-person show. Sorry. Two-woman show.
Two-human show.
Two-human show.
Two-human show. And we want to thank you for watching and listening and joining to Hello Houston. And we'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. And we're going to also be speaking with Congressman Al Green. You won't want to miss out. This is News 88.7. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available